Congratulations for purchasing your S&S kit number 2 from Utopia. It's Make a Chook sculpture, and I hope you enjoy it and have lots of fun doing it. It is a kit where you can really put your own flair on it, so we give you lots of tips and tricks in the videos to turn it into your unique creation. So you've got your kit and you've had a good look hopefully what's in there. There's a mask, there's the powder, there's gloves and bits and pieces. There's very detailed instructions and safety instructions, so make sure you have a read of those. There's your wire, a pattern, your tying wire, and those pesky little eggs that have just fallen off the table. Da, 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 da. So your YouTube videos are very important. It might be a good idea if you have a watch through, even if you just skim watch them before you start, so you can have an idea of what you want to do. This first video will show you how to make this, turn the wire into this armature. Okay, so you just need to get yourself some newspaper and cardboard, and for tools you need either a pair of scissors and wire cutter and pointy nose pliers. So hopefully you've got those things lying around, otherwise they're very inexpensive to go and get yourself some of those. The second video will show you how to mix the S&S and also add the first coat to your wire armature. Now there are options in the videos as to how to turn your chook into your own creation. With my one you can see I've used china to make the tails and the combs, but you can actually use some of the wire to add on pieces to this wire armature. That's video number 4. So if you want to watch a video number 4 to give you some idea of what you want to do with your tails, it might be a good idea before you watch video number 2, or before you start video number 2, before you apply the first coat of S&S. So once you've got your first coat of S&S, then it's video number 3, and you apply a second coat of S&S. That video also shows you how to use S&S as a sculpting compound, and you can actually use it to model with it if you want to do a chook like this, where you've actually made the comb and the beak with the sculpture medium. It also will show you how to do the eggs at some point. Maybe not video number 3. I've forgotten which video that's in, never mind. And then we have video 4, like I explained, and video 5 will give you some tips and tricks with your mosaic work. So have fun, and we're going to launch straight into now the wire work. Okay, so let's get started. So here's something like what you're going to end up with when you've finished doing your wire work. So the first thing you need to do is get out of your kit this pattern. What I would like you to do is draw around it on a piece of cardboard and then cut it out, so you're left with a cardboard shape. Okay, this cardboard shape is going to end up inside your sculpture. Alright, so if you want to keep a cardboard shape, make sure you make 2. Then what I would like you to do is pop on your gloves. Okay, so we're using the type of gloves that are for gardening or for work gloves. They've got on the back a stretchy fabric, and on the front they've got like some latex and protection. There's different brands, different types, so make sure you find yourself a pair of those. They're really great for your wire work. Okay. Now the wire that comes in your kit, take the large piece and straighten it out. I'm just going to pop him down there so he's not in the way. Straighten it out and get rid of all those lumps and bumps. So because it's been folded, it might take a few minutes just to get straighten it up again with those folds. Okay. Now you've got yourself a nice straight piece. What we're going to do first is make a cylinder around our cardboard shape. Okay. So most sculptures of this nature start with a cylinder. So we roll the piece of wire around onto itself, and you can just catch the ends like this, fold over the ends, the rough ends of the wire cylinder, just to hold it into place. Now the idea is that cardboard shape needs to sit loosely inside. Okay, you don't want it tight. Now you get your wire, your tying wire, and it's good if you can cut yourself up a little pile of wires before you start, so you don't have to cut them as you go. It's much easier if you just snip up a whole lot. You can use your scissors like I am, or a little pair of wire cutters, even just the jewellery wire pliers are enough just to cut up some tying wire. Alright, so get a little pile of those ready. Okay, now what we're going to do is finish tying off this end. So with your tying wire, first of all, a good way of working with your tying wire is to put a little hook in the end. Okay, with that hook, what you can do is push it through the two layers of the wire there and thread it back on itself. Catch it like this, do a crossover and pull, right? And cross over again and tie it off. So just twist it off. It's just one little wire twist there to hold that in place. Okay, we'll do a few of those. Bending in the wire, threading it through, and a wire twist. I'm just going to do a close-up of that wire twist so you can really see how I do it, because really this wire twist is the basis for all of the sewing up of the wire shapes. So you get your piece of tying wire, do a little bend in it. Okay, can you see here you've got two layers of wire overlapping. I'm going to put the tying wire in and through both and make sure I catch both layers. As it comes through there, I'll grab it with my other hand. Okay, now you can use your fingers like I am here. This is where your pointy nose pliers come in handy. You can grab the other end with your pointy nose pliers. So you've got two ends like this. Cross it over and pull. Pull nice and tight, and then cross it over again until you've done a little twist. Okay, so you've got a little twist, just little wire twists. You can see I've got 1, 2, 3 there. Alright, now I'm not going to wire up any more than that at this stage. I'm going to leave the rest of it open like that. Now, with my cardboard shape, I'm popping my cardboard shape inside, tying inside the cylinder, just loosely like that. Now we come to the newspaper. So using single sheets of newspaper, just scrunch them up into balls and pop some underneath like that, and some on top. So you can keep going like that, underneath and on top. Okay, and you have to keep going like that until it starts holding its own shape a little bit. This is the most awkward part of the sculpting process because it does move around on its own, and you can easily say spring open, and the newspaper can end up going everywhere until we get enough paper in there so it's holding its own shape. And some underneath. Okay, now we've got enough paper in it there for it's just holding its own there. You can see the paper cardboard patterns in between the layers of paper. Now what I'm going to do is start working this end and closing it over. So I'm closing over the bottom of the chook in effect. I'm folding all that in like this, so I'm actually making a base. You can see I'm just pulling all together, very rough, like this. Okay, can you see that? And the cardboard shape is inside. And now I'm going to sit it upright like this. Can you see it? And just push that cardboard shape in, and then push the paper down into that base. So that's all quite temporary at the moment. So we have sort of been able now to make a little, in effect, a little basket. It looks like a nest, doesn't it? Where we've got our paper squashed in the bottom, our cardboard shape in the middle. Okay, now, what I need to do now before I go any further is sew up this base with my tying wires again. Okay, so you do another hook and catch it through a few of the layers, cross it over and give it a twist. And you can keep going like that until you've sewn up that base. Now that I've sewn up my base, it's really easy for me to just sit it like this, and I know the paper's not going to fall out the bottom. So now what I can do is press my paper in nice and firmly and keep pushing that pattern to the bottom, because it does have a tendency to creep up. Alright, so I'm pushing the paper in nice and firmly on either side. Okay, and now I need to start filling up the basket with more scrunchy paper. I'm going to put some more paper in either side. Working my way up both sides of the pattern. As the paper starts getting higher, I need to start thinking about the shape and using my hands to mould the shape of the wire with that paper inside around the cardboard shape to get more of a shape of the actual chook in 3D. I'm using the paper in my hands to make a shape. And you see how I'm tapering that in at the bottom like this, following the curve of that pattern around like that. So the wire is now following the curve of that pattern, and in effect this bit here is going to become the tail. So I've done the same on both sides, and you can see now I'm starting to get a little bit of the actual shape of that chook. So I'm going to keep doing that with my paper. You do need quite a lot of paper to go through it quite quickly. So once again, balling up the paper and pushing it in on both sides. Front side and back side. Filling up that, what looks like a wire basket, which will become a wire chicken. start thinking about the shape here and using my hands to squeeze in the wire and follow the contours of that cardboard shape. You can see there it's going to come in to the neck there. That's going to become the head, like that. And then here you can see I'm making it nice and round, like a chook shape. Pushing it right in to the top of that cardboard shape. You do need to come up to be a little bit higher than the cardboard shape, otherwise you'll have a ridge down the top here. You don't want that cardboard making a ridge in the sculpture. So just bring the newspaper over the cardboard shape. That little bit of the cardboard shape there is literally just to show where the tail goes, not actually the tail. So just about there with my paper balls in the body. About there. Okay. So now we'll address the tail area. I'm going to bring that up and smooth out those lumps and bumps. And bring that together, and that is the end, the tail end of my chook. That's all I'm going to do at the moment. I might just do that, just squeeze that wire together and bunch it up like that. I can change that later. Now I'm going to pull this bit here across the body. One side, tuck one side in and pull one side over. Okay, because that's, I'm going to sew it closed. You see what I've done there? Pull that over. I'm going to sew it closed. Got my little tying wire here. Just catch it with a stitch there. Do a twist. And that's closed like that. Okay, so there's my rough tail end, and here's my rough head end. Now, just rescue the cardboard shape there. That's sort of the bit of the head shape there. The cardboard shape is smaller than the actual head will be. What we do now with our newspaper is we, instead of making a ball, we can use our newspaper now to make the shape we want, which is more of a long shape. Okay, making sort of like the head shape, the neck. And I'll put one of these on one side of the cardboard shape. And I'll do exactly the same long shape of newspaper. That long shape, and put that on the other side of the cardboard shape. So now that's padded out the shape of the head. Can you see that? Cardboard in the middle, long piece of paper screwed up on either side, squashed in, and then we're going to wrap this wire around that to make our head. Okay, that's it. It's looking good. And again, I just need to put a little tying wire there and catch that wire together to close off the head shape. Just to be on the safe side, you can put a few more stitches here and there to strengthen those joins along the back, around the head, along there. So now you've got a really rough chicken shape. So it's time to do your refining now. The best tool to do your refining with is your pointy nose pliers. It's a great tool for just refining up the shape as well as your hands. And what you do is you turn your chicken and you look at it from all angles and you decide what you need to do to it. Okay, so if I look at it, if I show you in the camera face on, you can see it's a little bit bulky on this side. It's quite nice and round on that side. From the back view, once again, it's a little bit square here. This side is nicer. And from the sides, you can probably see it's a little bit flat here, and straight. So we need to sort of make the shape nicer. So what we do is we get our pointy nose pliers, and you actually catch some of the wire holes and squeeze and twist. That's how you tighten up your wire work. You can do that anywhere where you think you need to pull it in and tighten up that shape, or change the shape. Okay, if you want to pull the shape in, you do that. You do that anywhere where you think it's bulging out too much. Okay, see that twist that I'm doing? Just pulling in those wires. Okay, that's how it's done. You can also use your hands, just pressing quite firmly with your fingers and thumbs, just pushing it in and shaping it where you want. You can even bang it on the table. This is good if you find your bottom hasn't gone flat. Sometimes they roll around. I think the one that I showed you earlier is a bit of a rounder shape, and that's not sitting really well on its bottom. If you wanted to make that flatter, you could just bang it down a bit more and make that stand up more. So you can see here I've got, from the same pattern, I've actually got two quite different chook shapes. And it's up to you whether or not you continue to refine this, make it look like this, or you put your own spin on it. So this is where, you know, sculpture is a creative process. It doesn't have to look exactly like my model. You can make it look like your chook. So if you want a squarish sort of chook that sits flat like that, well, that's probably okay, just to leave it like that now. If you want to bring it in, more of a round chook like the other one, then you need to keep working with your pointy nose pliers and refining it and shaping it until you've got the shape of the chicken that you like, okay? So for now, I'm going to leave my shape like this because I think it's quite nice to have a few different shaped chickens. Now, as you can see here, the top, there's a little bit of a comb effect happening here. I may or may not use that later. And the same with the tail, just a bit of loose wire sticking out there. I'm going to leave them, okay? And I'll show you what you can do with these later. Whether you cut them off, so it looks more like this, and then you can add something to make a comb, like this one. I've added the ceramic piece, or you can actually work a bigger comb here by adding on more wire and things like that, which I'll show you in another video. So that's really the basic shape of creating a wire armature out of the wire that's in your kit, and just some newspaper and a couple of simple tools. It's fantastic fun, and can't wait to see the chickens that you create. Thank you. In the next video, I'll be showing you how to apply the first layer of cement to your chicken and to mix the S&S powder. So stay tuned for the second video in the making the chook.